track is just a track, and this is how we should get it. Track is going anywhere, track is going through forest, track is going through grass, wherever. Track is everywhere. When we walk, when we run, when we jump, this is all track.
Many trainers, when they teach tracking, they develop a very artificial, orchestrated behavior in the dog, but because of so much structure, the dog doesn't ever feel the freedom to actually track.
I build up the stress in the tracking for the dog in the same way how it can happen in the nature. There can be river, there can be someone standing on the track, whatever. If this kind of dog drops out of the model, he won't be messed up in the head because he wants to track the track.
All right, everybody, welcome again to podcast Training Without Conflict. Today, my guest is somebody that is extremely passionate about IGP and more particularly the tracking phase of IGP. I'm gonna introduce you to Aivo Oblikas, but Aivo, welcome to the podcast. We've been trying to put this one together, but of course there was World Championship, there was a lot of other things going on, so finally now that things are calming down, we're able to make this. Again, thank you for coming on the podcast. And I guess instead of me trying to make the introduction, it might be safer because of you've been in the game for quite some time, and you've been active. You've done it with the Doberman, you did the Malinois, you compete. Also, as I said, tracking is a big deal for you, and FH, you just judged two of the biggest world championships back to back, like within, 2-3 weeks apart. The FH World Championship and then the FMBB World Championship, both, of course, tracking phases. But yeah, if you kind of just tell me a little bit, and for the people that may not know you that well, a little bit of your background, and we go from there.
First of all, thank you for invitation to join the podcasts. I think that the work what you are doing with these podcasts and overall how you try to influence the image of the sport and so on, it is so great. And I admire a lot because I think that the future of our sport is depending so much about sportsmen. I mean, if we take care of the sport by ourselves, then we have the sport. We just can't be lazy waiting that someone is making this work. And your podcasts are one of the parts, but in my opinion, can also build the future stronger. So I'm very much thankful that you asked me to join. And hopefully it's getting to this direction that for IGP people, very often the tracking is a little bit boring. So I hope that I can inspire people a little bit to get more sugar and spice from the tracking. So I'm very much pleased to speak about tracking. We can discuss about IGP and so on, about the sport. But now I tell a little bit about myself.
Yes. I know you have an interesting story how you got into the dogs and everything. So.
I started as a helper in the middle of 90s, and the funny thing how I started was that I had those days Dobermans, and the Estonian Doberman Association organized the IGP seminar here with Finland, and I was the only man participating the seminar. All the rest were women handlers. and Finnish teachers and trainers made a present to Estonian Doberman Association. They brought a sleeve and some training stuff to train bite work. And then they wanted to make a photo for the magazine that someone from Estonia has the sleeve. And as I was only man, they gave the sleeve to me that now you should look like a helper. And somehow it moved to this direction that I put the sleeve on. And then women started to discuss that maybe you won't get it off. So maybe you would start to train and so on. So for me, it was very interesting because earlier times I was doing track and field sport and I just finished this sport because I had quite bad injury. And so I had free time and space to start something. And so the dog sport was very perfect for this. I mean, I started step by step. I had a lot of help from Finland and Sweden, people coming to Estonia, making seminars and so on. And in the beginning, I was training as a helper. I mean, I did a long time just helper work, but then I started to look that if I train bite work, but obedience and tracking is not such a level, but there should be. There is no idea to train just bite work because you have to have all three disciplines. And so I started also to train people tracking and obedience. And I would say so that I have been competing by myself with several dogs. But beside of this, I have had all the time quite big training groups. So
Yes.
it has been like about 14, 15 dogs. I have been training all three disciplines and now for a little bit over than 30 years. So I have every day, every week, like 2 days or 3 days. In the evening or Saturday, Sunday, I train dogs because I have my work during the day. So it's the dog sport is a hobby for me. And I think that as a judge, it gives me so much practical point of view because I train so much different kind of dogs and so on. So I can have the touch, I mean, to the discipline. I think that this is very much important for the judges. Uh, Concerning the tracking, it is a little funny story. When I make seminars, I always tell this because I think that it could motivate people to train tracking. And it is so that with my first Doberman, I succeeded in tracking quite nice. I got points over the 90 and I was very self-confident. And then I took the puppy from my own breeding and I started to train the dog for the to go to the World Championships. And those days I was doing a lot obedience tracking. I do it left and right, and so on. My dog was very, very good in the legs, but I messed up in the corner. I did something wrong. I built up the conflict in the corner, and the funny thing is that I failed like everywhere. I failed in IGP1, those days IPO1. I got the result just in the third start. So I got the result in bite work and obedience, but I failed the tracking. Failed second time, third time I got the result. Then I moved to IPO2. I failed again, and then I got the result on the second time. And then I moved to IPO3 and I failed in tracking 8 times a row. So
That's when most
basically,
people will stop.
yeah, exactly.
And
It
you
was
got
so
it.
that my dog always went until the first corner, and then the self-confidence somehow got so badly hidden because he was stressed in the corner. He came back and it finished. And then I had a lot of good people who said that put the sleeve to the end, put a lot of toys to the track and so on. In the training, everything was perfect. He was doing so nice track. And going again to the competition, again 13 points and go home. And on the last competition, I had 93 in obedience and 94 in the bite work. And the funny thing was that I took a suit with me. I was like tie and suit. And I said to my wife that I have a feeling that now I will go and I get the result. I had suit with me and I failed in the tracking. I got again something like 14 points or 20 points, and that's it. And as I had a suit, I did B and C with the suit. So I have fancy photos from 20 years ago when I was doing, back transport looks a little bit like FBI, There is a prisoner in the front and you have your suit, black suit, and you're walking with Doberman behind. So it was very much fancy. My idea was that I thought that I would like to celebrate if I get the result. So I had a suit, but I didn't get the result. So I was driving home and I said to my wife that that's it. I will finish now. I just can't go on because it's too much failing. And my wife said that isn't it would be fun for you if you find a solution. I mean, for you as for trainer, it would be very much educational if you find a solution. And you know, at this point, I had trained dogs for tracking for 10 years. And it was first time when I started to think about what I do in tracking. And basically, I changed totally the approach. I mean, I started to see the tracking totally opposite than most people see it. And then I started to build up my system, and I was doing next start in 2 months. I got result here in Estonian German Shepherd Championships. I went next spring to Doberman World Championships. We have a winter, so basically we couldn't train the dog for 5 months. So basically after 2 months training, I got in Doberman Championships fifth best result in the tracking and all totally 10th place in the World Championships. So basically, the thing I just changed the approach and everything started to be totally different. So I always say to the people that if you have the wrong point of view or wrong approach and everything looks not so perfect, it's good to sit down and little bit analyze what you can do differently, or basically you need to understand what you are doing in the field.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, a lot of IGP people training the tracking so that they don't have very good understanding what they are doing there. So they are doing something, but they are not clearly understanding what they are doing.
Do you, to back up a little bit, when you mentioned how most IGP trainers look at tracking as far as being more of a like obedience structured versus the way you look at tracking right now. Let's talk a little bit about this, because it's I guess that's probably where we should start, because definitely there is two very different approaches how we look at tracking, right? And I think also depends to some extent on the dog and how much natural ability a dog can have. And we can argue that every dog should be able to do the simple footstep, follow a track, because their nose is just exceptional. But when you say that there is a people look at tracking as an obedience in some way, tell us a little bit more about this. The differences of style of and a way of thinking and so on.
For me, it was a little bit like so that if we speak about the nose of dog, it is crazy that the dog can smell the fingerprint from the glass. Oh, the handler has been drinking wine there is a fingertip in the glass and dog can smell it after 6 weeks.
Yes.
So if we think this idea, the IGP1 or IGP3 or even FH, it is so easy for the dog. I mean, the nose has so much more capability than we use. And the thing what I think people are doing wrong is that people like to train obedience and bite work because they understand what they are training. I mean, if you say to the dog, sit, and you see that the dog is sitting, you understand that the dog is sitting. If you give in bite work the aus command, you also see that the dog is making out. So it's very black and white. When you train the dog in the tracking, I would say not a single person can see, does the dog track or does the dog not track? I mean, if the dog is moving by the track, we assume that the dog is tracking, but we don't know, does the dog really track? So, in my opinion, if we force the dog in the tracking field to obedience, to left and right obedience, there is a huge risk that we build up the model for the dog that he understands if he makes left and right, we gave positive feedback. He could make the left and right without using the nose at all and getting positive feedback for this. So basically, we are training a little bit for the dogs like sit and lay down, but on the tracking field, and giving for the action the feedback that he's correct. I train more the attitude. I give positive feedback if the dog has correct state of mind in the tracking. And the correct state of mind means that the dog wants to track and he takes care of the track. I always say that if you basically have the diamond ring and you put the diamond ring to the drawer somewhere, you always know where is the diamond ring. And if you lose the diamond ring, you always look it very carefully. I want that the track is for the dog, the diamond ring. So when I start with the puppy, I think that this is the same like obedience, that if the dog use the nose in the natural way, he won't make left and right tracking like we would like to see in our discipline. So I introduce the tracking for the puppy from left to right. So I introduce that this is the thing I want to see. And then the puppy understands, okay, this is what we need to do. And then the handler is happy. And that we can call the model. And the model means that there is a certain kind of grass, there is left and right steps, there is some food, and probably when we teach the puppy, we also give some signals for the puppy with leash. We either give corrections, we give positive, whatever. That means that there is a huge risk that in this model, puppy starts to understand that he needs to take signals from us.
To listen to you more than...
Or listen us and make the left-right thing because then we are happy. So I try to move out from this model as fast as possible. And usually I say also to people when we discuss about tracking that there is one thing what you need to understand, that in the nature, if we take wolves or bears or whatever, track means that someone has been going somewhere, walking. That means that if we start from the grass, we go to the road, we go to the background, there is always the track. I mean, for dog, the model should be the person who has been walking. So there is always the track. not the model what we are doing in the nice field all the time, same way. Because if we make very much the same model, we modelize the dog to work in the certain surface in the certain way. But if the dog drops out of this model, he don't have any ability because there has been not existing this thing in the model. So this is the thing that if we train sit and lay down, and the dog makes strong and beautiful sit, for example, and then we give command chair, dog won't do anything because this is a new thing. Even he has so good connection, even he has so good motivation, but he won't do anything. And this is the risk if we all the time make the same model, that when we move out the model, then the dog don't understand that this is also tracking, because we have trained very much the same box and giving good feedback. This is what I think differently. I always say to the people that track is just a track. And this is how we should get it. Track is going anywhere. Track is going through forest. Track is going through grass, wherever. Track is everywhere. When we walk, when we run, when we jump, this is all track. And that's why I train a lot such a, how to say, I build up the stress in the tracking for the dog in the same way how it can happen in the nature, that whatever can be in the way. There can be river, there can be someone standing on the track, whatever, because there is always the track. And that means that if this kind of dog drops out of the model, he won't be messed up in the head because he wants to track the track. Not that he's somewhere
Right.
he don't know what to do. And this is the difference. I mean, I can speak a lot about what I train and how to train, but this is like the basic. I
So,
always say to the people that if you make retrieve in the obedience, you have just in one exercise, you have about 10 exercises. You have basic position, you have getting the speed, you have taking the upward, you have turning, taking the speed, moving, taking the front position. So just in one exercise, there is 10 exercises. And you have altogether 10 different exercises. There is a huge amount of exercises. But in tracking, there is just one exercise. So basically, in my mind, the tracking can't be so complicated. The tracking is the easiest part of the IGP because there is just one exercise you need to train. The thing what makes it complicated is that people want to see black and white obedience. They want to see what the dog is doing, but they can't understand. Does the dog track or does he just move around? And
right.
this is so in tracking, people need a little bit better dog reading knowledge, because they can't read the black and white thing. They need to read, does the dog track? So basically, I train it so that if there will be mistakes, I always build the mistake as big as possible, because then I can be sure that the dog is not tracking. I mean, if the dog is speeding in the track, let's say so, we start with the puppy, puppy moves on, he gets all the time food, he moves on, he gets a move, again food, we say very good, nicely done. So we train the puppy that if you smell the track, you need to move on, isn't it so? This is what we are telling to our dog. Now there will be higher grass, and there will be a lot of smell. And if the dog is not taking every step, but he's moving fast by the line, then basically in dog idea or dog head, he's also tracking. If we say to the dog that this is not okay, then we build huge conflict, because we have said to the dog that if you are tracking, then we are happy. Now the dog is tracking in his head, but we say this is not okay. That means that at this moment, when the dog starts to speed and we make correction, there is a huge possibility that we build up conflict because the dog is tracking, we say no, and dog don't know what to do. And if we make in this moment some help, give again command or help with the leash, we teach to the dog that if you have problems, I will help you. And this will be like the second problem then. The thing what I do, I train it so that if the dog is moving too fast, I build over there a trap. I make the track in this way that if he's speeding, he can't manage. So if he gets off the track, I correct. And the dog understands that he get the correction because he was not on the track. So I don't take the risk that I build up the conflict. Do you understand? It's a little bit like complicated, different.
So would you, I'll back up a little bit to
Yeah?
basically I mean, many trainers, when they teach tracking, they focus right away on this kind of very artificial, orchestrated, like really, I would say forcing the dog, but not necessarily forcing like how some people would think about forcing, but really making it as an obligation that this is exactly what you need to do and nothing else you're allowed. So they develop a behavior in the dog, but because of so much structure, the dog doesn't ever feel the freedom to actually track. And it's that obligation that you want to see the specific behaviors, how I move on the track, but not necessarily allow me to track. And I can see how this gets reinforced also by judges often. Maybe not all judges, but for sure there are judges that will be very focused when they give the points and the critique on, they have a certain style of track that they want to see, that it's almost if the dog tracks with great enthusiasm, but it doesn't show that specific style, they get penalized. Maybe not too much, but they get penalized. And that makes a lot of trainers to say, okay, then we have to make it orchestrated, and it has to look like this kind of robotic behavior that almost doesn't have purpose behind. And I guess my question for you, how do you, I mean, you kind of explained it to me, and you and I have talked extensively about tracking, and I did need help at some point, and you know, I got stuck with my last dog here. But there is that fine line between, you know, somebody spending a lot of time and not understanding how much freedom a dog should have. Should it have freedom? Should we allow the dog to do it in their own style, or should we really influence very hard how they should look? And then, of course, we have, you know, the risk of somebody putting a lot of time in tracking and believing that, okay, I really have to make sure, I don't care that it's discipline and obedience, but I have to make sure that I will spend all this money and go to a championship and I need to pass. And I think that way of thinking makes trainers believe that more of a disciplined, obedient style somehow will bring more security in getting the points. However, even at the World Championship that we just bought came from the FMBB, we saw many dogs that crumbled very quickly because I will be curious to hear what you think about it, but I believe it's because they couldn't manage it by pure obedience and discipline, and they had to actually put the enthusiasm and really the freedom to use their nose, and they couldn't. They felt that they cannot do that because they're not really ever trained that way. But how do you put the two together to where it's not so much obedience and discipline, but there has to be some, you're teaching the dog to be responsible, as you said, and you're doing it much more by the way you set up every track. And it's like I always said, like it's like a tracking, it's like a chess game. Like your move is when you lay the track, then the dog's move is working the track, and now you have the next move, and that is how you're gonna lay the next track, and that's how you build a good dog. But
Yes, for me it's like just playing a chess. I always train during the tracking so that it's like living organism. I mean, I make a drawing. I make it so that I place the food in the very certain places, and when I see how the dog is tracking, then I start to build up some things to build the dog stronger. But I come back to your first question concerning the what some Sarge is saying and concerning the differences in the tracking style. I would say so that me as a judge, I'm charging in the basis of FCI rules. I need to charge in basis of FCI rules. And in FCI rules, it said that the dog needs to track step by step. He needs to take the steps with power, with self-confidence, be concentrated, and all the other good things. So basically, this is said in the rules. So, in my opinion, if there is obedience built dog who is very well built up, he's showing 100 points track, having all these elements inside. I have just as example, I have from my group one dog I built up from the puppy age, totally from the zero, who got 2 years ago in Croatia in FCI IGP Championships, 100 points, like best track in quite difficult field. And this dog had the same, step by step, had self-confidence, had power. So it had all the same things what the people who are training obedience track having. So in my opinion, the difference is not how the track is looking like. Like now in FMBB, in certain parts, the track was very much seeable by the eyes, and some dogs just moved like by the line. They didn't take left and right, but they moved by the track, by the line. So they got less points because in our rules it said that there is 600 steps. That means that the dog needs to take 600 steps. Not about that he needs to go by the line and take just 2 steps. I mean, this is the thing. So basically, I agree that there is no difference. You train step by step with obedience or step by step in other approach. But it needs to be step by step with power, with good concentration, with nice drive, in good balance, in good cooperation, and so on. So everything should be in there. But in obedience, training, tracking, there is a huge risk that we give the positive feedback not for the tracking, but for the obedience. And this is the wrong thing. I mean, if the dog is making strongly sit, he looks very self-confident. And if he makes the tracking same way, this is like sit exercise. He makes it self-confident with nice power, everything's perfect. But if the tracking is not inside of this and he gets out of the track, then he don't have any capability to solve the problem because he has never been taught to track. This is the thing, you know. So basically, I don't say that the obedience kind of tracking is bad, but there must be also the tracking inside, not just obedience. Because if the dog makes obedience and he will be out of the track, he will be like some machine. You take the socket out from the electrics and he just stops because there is no electrics anymore. So this is the thing. Or I would say this is the difference of the approach. So basically, when I train the dog, I also train because of this in the puppy age, the left and right, because we need in our discipline the left and right. But I build the power, the drive, and self confidence up on the basis that the dog understands that if he tracks in a certain way, he feels better, and if he don't track in a certain way, there will be problems. And then during the trainings, he gets more self confident, and self confidence always brings the power, it always brings the drive, and the dog starts to make left and right very strong with nice power. Even we have not been doing much obedience left and right. This is like a little bit like coming to the same street from the opposite side.
What do you think was at the FMBB? I mean, quite a few dogs couldn't make it, and I'm sure there was different reasons. But you were on the field every day, and you were giving the points. What did you see? Because it cannot be just one problem. I mean, I'm assuming different dogs had different reasons, and like when you are evaluating and you're walking right there, what do you see in what are the different reasons, I should put it this way, that dogs you saw that just gave up or got lost or
Uh, First of all, I must say that if we look the statistics, this is not just about this FMBB. If we look FCI World Championships for past years, there is also quite big percentage of failure. And this is the same also in several FMBBs. So basically, if we look at the statistics, there is always some dogs who won't get result in obedience, but there is maybe 3 dogs, 5 dogs, something like this maximum. There are some dogs who get terminated or disqualified in bite work, but this number is also very small. And in tracking, there is mostly 25 to 30% of the dogs who fail. So this is not about this year FMBB, but this has been already like some years. And in my opinion, it started to come up when the bigger competitions started to be more done in the normal way. Earlier, there was a long period when in the competitions the tracks were hit very strong. So the track was so easy that I could track without the dog. And if you have such a highway, all the obedience trained dogs show excellent results and they look very strong because they never get lost of the highway because it's so deeply put in that there is no way to get out even. So there was long period when all the bigger competitions were made like this. And in my opinion, this was a huge mistake because earlier, before this, I think that there was much more know-how about tracking in the world. But this period cleaned this know-how out, because to succeed, you needed obedience in the tracking field because all the competitions were made quite in the same way. Then they started to change this approach, and now I would say that most of the FCI World Championships have the kind of tracking fields, and the tracks are made in the quite normal steps. So you need to have the tracking, and that's why a lot of dogs are failing. And I have been always telling to people that going to the World Championships, it's not the easy thing. You need to train a lot. You need to put a lot of time in, a lot of money in. This is very long way to go. And if you go to the World Championships and there is very easy tracking fields, then you are lucky and you get results.
Yeah.
But it sounds so sad that you go there and you fail tracking. I mean, you have put so much money and time and so on. Isn't it good to build up the tracking in the way that you will always succeed, not just in the easy fields? And in my opinion, this is the problem of the organizers. If I look the bigger competitions, like now we had this one SASIC competition where the tracking was laid down. I saw how the tracking was laid down. I mean, you don't need to have any dog
Yes.
to manage in this tracking. So basically, if the organizers make such trackings, they build up the false picture and the people feel so much stronger and they don't need to develop. And that means that if they go to FMBB or FCI, they will crash over there. So this is the problem. I mean, some of the dogs, if they are built up nicely, they manage in both fields. But a lot of dogs will have problems. So if we would like to get some better tracking in the future, our organizers should keep the level. So people start to develop their understanding, people start to develop their training methods. And I would say that if we would put down that next 3 years, there won't be any competition, stepped very strong, and everything is made like normal tracking. After 5 years, we wouldn't have not a single dog failing in FMBB or FCI. So this is the thing. But people like that the dog.
Well, that would be
Dogs.
one option. Sorry to interrupt. That
Yeah.
will be one option, and that will be the good option.
Yeah.
However, we know from experience that if something like this happens, then all of a sudden a new organization pops up and everybody is successful. I mean, this happened a few years back with the obedience portion too. Obedience
Yeah.
kind of became extremely difficult, almost not correct to be so difficult as far as the judging. And many people kind of was like, well, this is ridiculous, and we're gonna step away and we're gonna do something else. And I think finding somehow for these changes to happen more gradually, so people don't just say, oh, we're gonna just join another organization. That would be important, no?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if we have nowadays the competitions where the tracking is made no tracking, I mean, this is like highway.
Yes.
It could be made difficult little by little. I mean, not like
Yeah.
boom, killing the
Yeah.
dogs, but moving to this certain direction. Because if you move little by little, people getting less points, but they won't be killed. I
Exactly.
mean, from my point of view, when I'm charging, I always also tell the competitors, or I also, if I train new charges, I tell to new charges also that we have 100 points. That means that if the dog is doing in the tracking 60 points, he has 60% good things and 40% bad things. That means that if I give the comments for the person, I always bring up these positive things because there was not just negative things, but positive things. And if I, as a judge, give the feedback to the handler in the way that you were so good in this, you were so good on this, you were so good on this, but this was bad and this was bad, then he knows what to train. And in the next time, he probably will have the result. But if I give such a comment, the biggest thing I need to think is that the person who gets 60 points needs so much more motivation to go on
Right.
than the person who got 90 points. And if I just kill 60, go home, then I kill this person. I mean,
Yes.
this is not good for anyone. I mean, it sounds so stupid to make something like this. So basically, if the field is not so easy and person fails, gets 60, and he understands, okay, I need to fix this and this, then next time he will get 80 and next time 90. So basically there would be some movement. But I understand you. This is quite difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
but nowadays it's crazy in the way that people have from some competitions the feeling that they are so good and then they are crashing in FMBB and FCI. And it's a little bit like having false picture about their
Exactly.
dogs, the knowledge, the training. And in my opinion, this kind of false picture also a little bit kills the sport because people don't understand what is correct charging, what is correct trials, and how it should build up. So this is the problem because, for example, I charge a lot of tracking, but always when I come to charge to some country, very often they ask from me which part you would like to charge. No, sometimes they say that we would like that you charge the tracking, but sometimes they asking. For example, when I came to charge in America, they ask from me which part you would like to charge, and I always take tracking. And one of the reasons why I take tracking is that, in my opinion, tracking need to be in the same value as obedience and bite work. And I want to take care that if I'm in the tracking field, that the people over there get the kind of feedback that they understand where they are, because then they can move on. I mean, I, as a judge, never can give false points. I mean, if the dog tracks 67, I can't give 72
Right.
because it was 67. But I can say good things for the person and anyhow give 67. And this is the thing, what I think, because in tracking, very often judges saying just value of the leg. They said first leg good, second very good, third. So there is just, but they don't explain so much why there was good or why it was very good, why it was unsatisfactory. I mean, and this is the part, for example, in bite work or obedience, we as a judges we say so much more. In bite work, escape exercise, we don't say that escape exercise was good. We say that escape should be a little bit more powerful. Grip was not so firm. Transition phase should be a little bit more calmer. So person understands why it was good, but it should be in the same way in the tracking,
Yeah.
because then the person understands where to move on. And that's why I give the kind of feedback as I give. My critics, people are liking my critics. And they are liking my critics. A lot of people now in FMBB also, they came to me, shook my hand and said that first time in the sports career, they understood in the tracking for what they are getting the points. And this
Which
is the
is
thing.
shame, really,
And
because this
this is
shouldn't be
good because
happening at the world level. This should, like, judges should be helping with the critiques, starting from level 1 and 2 and so on, to where the trainer much sooner starts to build a picture, if they don't have it, what needs to change and what doesn't need to change.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we as judges need to evaluate how the dog looks at the moment, and bring out the good things and bring out the bad things, because then the person understands which parts are bad and he knows how to continue training. And in tracking, it is very often so that the problem is coming out in the tracking, not so much because how the dog acted in this moment, but how the dog felt before. For example, if I give the critics, I say that your dog didn't concentrate so well and he was not so confident in the first 10 steps. So when I look your dog was showing tracking, but he was not feeling confident and powerful. And that's why the mistake came afterwards. Because then person knows that if I go home, I need to do something with the starts.
Yes.
If I just say that the dog went off the track on the 15th step, there can be so much different reasons for this. And if the person don't know the reason, then he don't know what to train. I mean, me as a judge, I cannot discuss about training methods because I don't know about any dog,
Yes.
how they are built up. I can't
Yes.
comment. I can't say that I'm giving you comment, you should train this and that,
Yes.
because I don't know anything.
And
But
even if you do, it would be the wrong thing to do that
yeah,
in a
exactly.
critique.
Exactly. And that's what judges never can do. But I must say, not just that the dog stepped left, but in tracking, as there is so much about how the dog feels.
How you read the dog. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
need to read the dog and say that this
Yeah.
mistake came because of that. And so the person understands that this is, he needs to fix not the secondary thing what happened, but the primary thing what brought out this fault. So this is the idea. And as I am so much inside tracking, I read the dogs in the tracking so well, I just want to charge in the tracking to take care that I evaluate the people time and money so much that I want that if they come to compete, they get from me the kind of valuation that they understand what happened. And
Yeah.
that's why I choose the tracking, because I have noticed that among IGP charges, there is a lot of charges who love the stadium part. They love to charge B and C, and then they don't like so much to go to the tracking. There is a lot of good judges among IGP who love the tracking, who are really good in tracking. But there is also judges who don't love tracking so much. And that means that if there is different kind of charge, then possibly the competitor gets very good feedback in B, very good feedback in C, but in tracking he gets just the values.
Yeah.
Good, very good, very good, good. And that's why I always prefer to go for the tracking, because I know that I can make it in maximum way. I mean, I don't care, I don't compare myself with other judges that I'm better or doing something different. But I mean, I want to take out this risk that possibly the person gets just the numbers, because I have been competing by myself so much, and I would say that there have been about 90% starts where I have been got just the points. So it has been good, very good, good, very good, good, very
Yeah.
good, but nothing about what was inside this.
Yeah.
So I see a little bit this kind risky, and that's why I charge the tracking. Because in my opinion, for people, the feedback in tracking is more important, because in B and C, they see very well that the dog didn't sit, or the dog got second command in the house. But if the dog is built up more in the obedience in tracking, and there is the handler don't read the dog so well, he needs the kind of feedback that someone says that you understand the dog made this mistake because he was feeling this and that. So this is the thing. And now I come to FMBB. For me, it was a little bit shocking. I mean, maybe shocking is too black and white word, but I have been charging IGP FH World Championships twice, and I have been once supervisor. So I have been sitting very close and looking all the tracks. And I have been charging a lot of different countries IGP championships. But I have never charged IGP World Championships. This was my first time. And when I have been looking the tracking results, I have been always thinking that there were some problems, there was something this and that, but I have never been so close in IGP World Championships tracking as I was now. And for me, the shocking was that if I compare the average level with different country championships, for example, like American championships, uh, you didn't have in American championships so rough problems with disobedience tracking. Then it came out in FMBB. You understand?
Yes.
So for me, the shocking was that for example, in one day, the tracking field was easier than other days. So all tracks were seeable. It was a little bit like, I can't say that it was like a class, but it was very much nice field and you could see all the steps by eyes. So I said to other judge that today all the dogs will get results because I mean you can't fail, and the percentage of the failure was bigger than other days. So there was 26 dogs and 9 failed. And I was like, wow, how it can be possible? Like,
Right.
how it can be possible? How the dogs can fail in such a field? I mean, how? And I would say so that there was a little bit different how it looked like. But more or less, the problem was the conflict. So there were dogs who were doing left and right, and the surface get a little bit drier. It was a little bit windy, and they made the kind of mistake that they got out. And when they got out, they didn't know what to do, you know. They didn't start to track, but they started to run around to find somehow the track. So basically, inside the model, everything looked 100 points, nice, left and right, good power, everything as it should be. And now, dropping out, he couldn't put the nose down and use the nose to get back. Even the dog was like 70 centimeters or 1 meter off. So it was very, very close. And some dogs were moving across the track left and right, and they didn't smell that they were going across the track. So it was a little bit, if you look such a dog, you understand that the dog is stressed because otherwise you could smell the track. If you're going across the track and not smelling the track, that means that the dog is stressed. So basically, the stress comes always because the conflict. So the conflict could be that they were dropping out of the model and they didn't know what to do. And other thing, very often in training, people are helping their dogs with the leashes. When I do seminars, I would say that 99% of the people in my seminars who are helping dogs with the leash, they don't understand that they are helping. I
Right.
am saying
No,
that you
for
are
sure.
helping.
For
No,
sure.
no, no, I don't help. So basically, this is the thing. If you help in the trainings and then you go to the competition, you can't help. The conflict starts from this. For example, I make example. If the dog makes obedience left and right tracking, and he makes mistake, small mistake, and in the training you correct, this correction is a signal. This is a part of the game. Now, in the trial, it gets off the same way, but we are not giving the signal. And that's enough to build up the conflict. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
dog is getting to the segment of the life he has never been.
Yes. And it's waiting. It's almost like I can do it, but you need to help me here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
And
crazy.
this is a huge problem. There were also some dogs who just stopped tracking. They were
Yeah.
going and just stopped. I mean, doing nothing, getting commands and just stopping, or making false indications showing that they don't want to go, or things like this. And this also shows that the dog don't clearly understand what he needs to do in the tracking. So it builds up the stress, builds up the stress. In the certain moment, this dog just can't live with this stress, so he just quit. So this is like, I would say that the reason is the same. The reason is the conflict, but it's coming from different reason or different point of view. So, in my opinion, if I want to train the dog so that he won't get to the stress, I always praise the dog for tracking, for looking for the track, for showing activity to find the track, and so on. And I always give negative signals to the dog about running around, doing nothing, making passive, or whatever. So, in black and white, I give praise for doing certain things and I give correction for doing wrong things. And then I don't praise the left and right, but I praise the activity to get to the left and right. You understand?
Yeah,
So
the effort.
basically, if the dog gets to the conflict, he never will be switched off. He always starts to look for the solution. So all these failures, what there was very much different kinds of them, but they are always because of the conflict. And the conflict is coming because of training. Sometimes it's so, I mean, some dogs over there, the handlers were so surprised how it got like this because everything was at home very fine and so on. But it could be so that the dog is waiting longer in the car. He will be a little bit stressed because the situation is different. Now you need to walk to the start a long way. It again looking different. And now you start to work. And if you handle the leash differently than at home, it could be the cracking point.
Yeah.
I mean, I always train the dog in the way, even from the young ages, that in the starts, I give always full leash. But the people very often make the starts with short leash. And when the dog gets in the nice mood, then they give more leash. But this is the thing what never happens in the trials, you know. So basically, we train again the wrong picture in trials. The most difficult part for the dog is the start because he needs to go by himself and I'm not stepping behind.
Yes, that
So,
distance between dog and the trainer.
yeah, but I mean, afterwards, after 10 meters, I start to walk behind the dog. But the first 10 meters, he's just going, 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 and I'm just standing. So for the dog, there's need to have a good self-confidence to go independently. So basically, I would say that the start is the most difficult for the dog because of this. Because if we walk behind the dog, we give the positive feedback that you are correct and
Yeah.
it will raise the self-confidence of the dog. So basically, if we wait in the car, dog is a little bit stressed, we make long walk, dog is a little bit more stressed, and now the competition starts, you won't walk behind the dog, and this kind of stress totally will destroy the dog.
Yeah.
And so he starts to look nervous, he makes some mistakes, and he's always in such a state of mind that he can't solve anymore. So it is like domino, you know, one piece is falling
Right.
and then every second one is falling again. And at the end, it will be failed. Because overall, I would say that the tracking fields in FMBB, they were not difficult. I mean, okay, people are looking at me, you are FH charged, there is different point of view of what is difficult, but I mean, I always look the field in this way that I look how the dog is tracking.
Yeah.
And I saw there several dogs who were speeding quite strongly. And anyhow, they didn't lose the track. So even in the highest speed, they could smell the track. And some of them were tracking so that they were during the track moving the head, looking on the side, and getting again back to the track. So if it would be difficult, these kinds of dogs wouldn't
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
So this is the thing what characterize. I mean, for me, always so that if I look at tracking fields, I think that this is easy or this is difficult. But then I see the first dogs, and then I see how the dogs are feeling this field. And then I can make opinion, this is easy or this is difficult. So in this measure, I would say that the field in FMBB and the style how the tracks were made were normal. I mean, we could say that they were not easy, but they were not also difficult.
What do you think about the, like let's say in protection, you have when the helpers are selected and they go through different camps and they've shown some work and they're clearly there is a very solid, most of the time, selection process for helpers. Tracking layers seems to be, at least from all of my experience, very often the track layers don't have, not that they don't have experience, but they don't have the collective effort to be consistent or to know how to really lay the tracks. Like I have played with some interesting statistics a few times, and there's been times when dogs will fail because of a certain track layer. So like to put it, let's say a trial has 4 track layers, and they do flights, and then you look at the tracks at the end and you put the percentage of success and failure rate, and you can clearly see that there is this one person that the failure rate is dramatically different than the other track layers. How much effort is put on a world level to make sure that there is some uniformity and that people that lay tracks are not just, okay, I'm just gonna kick hard, because that's not the main reason of the track layer, right? But comparing to the helper work, how much effort goes into educating and selecting track layers, and how important that is, in your opinion?
First of all, I would say that maybe I have been lucky.
Good.
But in these competitions where I have been judging, the track layers have been very professional and very unique. I mean, there have been no differences between the track
Nice.
layers. And I have been thinking that it could be so that in World Championships and also in different countries, their own championships, track layers need to make so many tracks that these guys who don't feel so self-confident, they don't go. So probably this is the reason. I mean, the track layers who are chosen, they are already so experienced that they know what to do. I mean, at least as much as I have
But
been
I guess,
charging.
sorry to interrupt, I guess
Yeah.
just to make it maybe a little more clear, it's not the experience and the knowledge of the different track layers, but how a track layer, like the one track layer would say, well, the corner just happens to be right here in this whatever, a little bit of a problematic area, but too bad, that's where I'm gonna do it. And then you have the other track layer that says, you know what, I'm gonna take 3 more steps and make the corner. You know, this kind of little details can really make a big difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. Totally agree with you. Because now we come to the tracking coordinator. And I would say so that usually when I charge, I always want to meet tracking coordinator before the competition and discuss about how the tracks are done and what there is need to be considered. Now in FMBB, it was also so that before opening, we had a meeting with tracking coordinator and everything was told how me and Jiri want to see the tracking, and it was done perfect in this way. But I agree with you that if the track layer is not competitor by himself, or if he don't have enough experience, there can come out different things in the field, but you just can't explain to them
Right.
because you don't know that something like this happens. So, for example, I always say to the track layers that if there is a change of terrain, please go 4 steps more before you make this or that. Or if there is a water, please make this or that. So I always try to explain, but anyhow, something can happen what is not explained. So there is, I would say that every organizer has a responsibility that he will choose the good track layers. And there is always a little bit difference in the knowledge. So I think that we can't eliminate the kind of risk that there is certain track layer who is not so good. On the other hand, I would say so that when I looked FMBB track layers and how the tracks were done, uh, these people were having different height, different legs, and different weight. So if they are making the tracks, anyhow, the tracks are looking a little bit different. Because if you have woman making track or men making track, if there is double weight or half of the weight,
Yeah.
they always look different. But I would say so. I always have been training in my group talks in this way, and that I have been saying that you need to train your dog so good that you will be over the luck. So if you take the bad number, you have bad luck, or you have bad field, or you have middle of day more hot and so on. You need to train so good that your dog is always over the luck. Because if you're on the same level with the luck, you always will be worried about the weather, about the wind, about the
Yeah.
track layer, about whatever things. And if your dog is built up so well that he's over the luck, the difference is how the people are laying the tracks is very small detail. I mean, if you make 1 hour old track like in IGP3, it is so easy for dog nose that if the person has longer step or shorter step, if there is some other things like this, it doesn't play a role.
Yeah, it's
I
not
mean,
surprise, and the dog
yeah,
is very quick to adapt and right away.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for
If you
sure.
make the corner within the water so that there is nothing, just the water, I would say so that it will be a big mistake. I mean, I have been charging in one competition where in the middle of track was a lot of water and no grass at all. And I said to the competitor that then you can start again after the water
Mm.
because basically the dog cannot track inside the water. He just cannot track inside the water. I mean, if there is a little bit grass, there is always a little bit smell.
Yeah.
But if there is like 20 centimeters water and nothing more, this is not trackable. I mean, this is not trackable at all. And it's always not sportive if we kill some sportsman in this water, because this is not the part of our sport.
Yeah, I really like that.
And I always understand I have been also coordinating a lot of tracks and organizing competitions that you look all the field and it looks so fine. And now whole night it's raining. You
Yes.
just can't do nothing. I mean, it's not your fault. You just need to manage somehow. But now it's coming to the judge experience. He needs to understand, is this field in certain point trackable or not trackable? And I mean, if there is a deep water and there is no way, no smell, then it's not logic that the dog should make nice corner in this water. I mean, this is the thing.
Very
Because
true.
in FH it happens more than IGP, that during the 3 hours it rains a lot, and there will be certain parts where was no water before, and now it will be filled with water, and there will be a lot of water. And if it's not trackable, then the dog cannot track it, and that's it.
Here is a question for you. Dogs, like I mean, of course there is exceptions and so on, but for the most part, the IGP dogs, they end up getting better and better in tracking as they get older, to where like their protection and obedience starts to go away, and all of a sudden the tracking and the understanding of tracking starts to go up. And I think a lot of the reasons that I see is, one is just as you said, like you know, when you are studying and you're teaching tracking and you don't have the experience of competitions too much, you always pick the most pristine, beautiful spot. And then you go to another trial and another trial, and you realize eventually that you never get that beautiful spot, and you start to train now accordingly. But I guess a lot of the tracking experience also comes directly from competing and learning from what can you expect in competition as far as tracking, and that makes you really start to train a little bit better and not just pick these beautiful places always for tracking, or when there is a problem you always, oh, I'm going to avoid it or I'm going to stop. And then also just the age by itself somehow, I guess when I'm saying age, it's not the age, but it's just the number of tracks, the experience that the dogs are accumulating. And they end up being better on average than they were when they were 2 years old. But they are now 7 or 8, and they finally get it. And the competitor starts to kind of feel almost disappointed, because the tracking was really the part that always kept them behind, because they had nice obedience, nice protection. But now the dog is older and they cannot make that obedience and protection, but the tracking all of a sudden excels. And I guess that's why a lot of people end up going to FH as an outlet at that age. What are your thoughts?
It was so funny. I mean, this is a little bit part of the tracking, but I think differently. I mean, I always train the dogs so that I train the dogs from the puppy age so that they are trained for FH. Uh, in my group, majority of them never start in FH. They just make IGP and that's it.
Mhm.
Because people don't like to be so much in the field to make long tracks and wait and so on. So they just make IGP. But I train them for FH, and I even wouldn't say that I train them for FH, but I train them for tracking, which has so many different components that if the tracking has so many components, people used to call it FH. But in my opinion, I don't train them for FH, but I train the track in the way that whatever can happen in the track. Because then the dog who is tracking in IGP and there is a water, he also will solve the water. I mean,
Right.
in my group, I don't see the problem if there is 10 meters water because they always solve it because I teach them to solve it. Because I think that they have much more possibilities in IGP also then. But I would say so that I always try to get the dog ready in tracking in the same age when they are good in bite work and obedience. And that's exactly what you said. It would feel so sad that if the dog is losing good results because of the tracking and afterwards getting good tracking, he's already old. So I don't want to be in this position. And I would make such an example that my Malinois, I competed in FH, was 2.5 years old when I won third place in Estonian championships in IGP FH. And I went to World Championships as a reserve dog. And I got the possibility to start in Ukraine. And my dog was just 3 years old over there. So during the opening ceremony, he had a birthday and got 3 years old, and he was already built up for IGPFH in World Championships. So this is this is the thing that people are a little bit. I mean, a lot of IGP people think in the way that when the dog is older, we will jump from IGP3 to
Right.
FH, and then we will make the FH.
Right.
But I would say so that if I look the FH dogs, if you want to win in the World Championships, you need to have also power, drive, and all these things. And younger dogs mostly have more power, drive, and so on. So I would say that if I look IGPFH World Championships, very often 4 or 5 years old dogs look much better than 8 9 year old dogs because they have this. I mean, FH tracking should be charged in the same way like IGP, what means that they both need to have power, drive, and all these parts. And if in FH I don't see the power, then there is a big minus for this.
Right.
So I build it up like this. But for the question what you asked, why the older dogs look better, I would say that one of the components is that handlers build up with older dogs less conflicts. And it could be so, like you said, that they are learning more by going to competitions, getting some experience. But it's also so that, for example, if the dog gets older, he's maybe not speeding so much. So I don't make corrections in the wrong way, wrong timing, and whatever. So basically, when the dog has already certain knowledge, I will take, or people will take all the stupid things away. So the dog will have less conflict. So the dog starts to understand. So basically, the dog gets to the age of 8 years and then he says, wow, now I understand what you have
Right.
been meaning all the time. Because you have been now taking all these conflict parts away and now I understand why you didn't say it in the first year. So this is like so. And
Right.
that's why they look more confident.
Okay, good one. All right, Aivo, next one. Talent. Like I am firm believer that talent has you know, it's something that's given, and there is always, even with human sports, this thing about hard work versus talent, or the combination or whatever. And I always lean to talent as a priority, like natural given talent. So like in obedience, you call a dog and you make a recall and the dog flies to you. And it's not because you reward it, and it's not because you do a retrieve and you can make 5 retrieves back to back, and the motivation and the desire and the natural talent is there, and it's not because of the reward. You put the dog in bark and hold in the blind and you show them what they need to do, but then the talent just explodes. There is a talent in tracking just as much as in the other phases. And I think that's what makes the sport really beautiful, because we need that for the excellent dog. We need the excellent training with excellent raw material of the dog and the talent in all the three phases. If it's not in one phase, we have a little problem in our sport. When we talk about tracking, how much do you acknowledge and when do you recognize that the dog is really talented, or that dog, it's not that it's not going to be a good tracker, but then some work needs to be done there? And how much it changes motivation versus training system according to the talent, the raw ability of the dogs?
I would say so, that there are certain dogs who are having better genes in the way that they are easier to train in the tracking. And then there are some other dogs who have different kind of characteristics, and they are very difficult to build up in the tracking. So, like you said about obedience, I know it very well. I mean, like my own Mali, when I was training the send out, I just put the pillow to the end of the field once in the spring, and that's it. I mean, I never shouldn't put it there because he was just running always over there with full speed. So this is the different type of dogs. And I would say so that one of the things what we need to understand is if we take the IGP, we have the rules for sure, but we always have the history, and we always need to think why we have this sport. So when the Schutzhund came up, when all this history started, the tracking had a certain meaning for the breeding, because in obedience and in bite work, you can't see these characteristics, what you see in tracking. So basically, if we would eliminate from IGP the tracking part, I would say that we would see in 5 or 10 years a lot of these kind of dogs what we basically don't want to see. Because in tracking, the dog needs to concentrate in the same way for a long time, and we don't have this in PNC.
Correct.
And this long concentration will change the stress level and state of mind of the dog, and the dog needs somehow to solve it. So if we take, for example, bite work, always the dog gets the bite. It little bit makes the break. I mean, he can get, there is going from one drive to another drive, making obedience. So it's a little bit like, even it's long one, and it's physically very difficult for the dogs. But it has so that your brains are not running in the same mood all the time. In obedience, it's also it's building up for the dogs a lot of stress because there is no ball, there is nothing during the obedience. But anyhow, they are divided to exercises. So the dog explodes, then he can calm down, you can say good. Again explodes and so on. But in tracking, he needs to work by himself, getting no praise, nothing back. And this is showing the certain kind of characteristics from the dog. So I would say so that if we make the competitions where we eliminate the tracking because we make it too easy, we make it just in the way that every dog gets to the stadium, you understand what I mean?
Yes.
That every dog gets the result in the tracking, then we basically going against the main idea why the Schutzhund was done. I mean, we eliminate certain genes which have the same kind of importance
Oh, we're totally
than
going to change
other.
the makeup of the dogs,
Yeah.
100%. Just as you said,
So
within
so
five
I would
years.
yeah, so I would say so that some dogs have advantage in bite work, other dogs have advantage in the tracking, and other dogs have advantage in the obedience. In the same way, I would say that if we are looking the handlers, we have certain top level handlers
Yeah,
who are
very
good
true.
in everything. But then we have handlers who are good in obedience, and handlers who are good in bite work, and handlers who are good in tracking. So basically, like you said, this is the beauty of our sport. It's a little bit so that if you get 100 points in C, but 85 in B and 70 in
Exactly.
tracking, you never win. And there is not much dogs and handlers who get 100 points in every discipline. So this is about, I mean, every dog has certain abilities which are good, either in B, either in C, or either in tracking. And I would say that if we have very much strong dog in bite work, tracking is so easy that you can always get your 95 in tracking. If the dog is very good for the tracking, but don't have the kind of power, don't have the kind of parts what we need in C, there is very difficult to get over 90 points for this dog
Yes.
in C. So I would say that because of the tracking is so much easier for the dogs, if you train it on the proper way, it's not playing so big role after all. How high you get in the podium. Because if we look the World Championships, very often it's so that you need to get excellent in the tracking, and
Oh,
then B and C are the parts what will decide which place you get. Uh, but very often it's so if you lose in the tracking 10 to 15 points, you never get them back in obedience or never get them back in bite work.
yeah.
So it's a little bit the kind of thing that on one side, the tracking is easier because different kind of dogs can make it. But if you lose in the tracking, then it's very crucial because you can't win it back in B and C. So it's a little bit like this. And I would say so that in tracking, there are certain kind of dogs who are extremely difficult to build up for the tracking, and they always get less points or sometimes fail and so on. But if you build them correctly up, they never fail, but they never get high points. But the number of these dogs are not too big. On the other side, we have these dogs because we have breeded too long to hectic dogs and to explosive dogs and so on because we loved in B and C that the dogs are quick, pew, wow, boom, boom.
Yes.
And if we breeded these dogs are not good for the tracking. So basically, when we eliminated the tracking because we made tracking so easy, we made two bad things. All the know-how was disappearing, and bad kind of dogs came in because of the breeding, because the qualifier of the tracking was out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because now I like very much how the FCI takes the IGP rules. I have been visiting every year these FCI charges trainings, and I like how the power, how the drive, how the balance, all these things are now in the rules. I mean, nowadays we try to evaluate so much more the more balanced dog than the hectic ones and fast ones who are a little bit all the time under pressure. And it is in the obedience, it's in the bite work, and it's the same in the tracking. And that's why, for example, now in the rules, it's written primary things and secondary things. And it is not new thing. Also with older rules, in every charge training, it was told that these are more important than other things. But a lot of charges didn't quite understand the point, and now it's written black and white. These are primary things and these are secondary things. For example, if we speak about tracking, uh, I never go uh, if the dog shows the article, I never go next to the dog.
As
The
a judge.
reason, sorry,
As
as a
a judge,
judge,
yeah.
yeah, I never go close to the dog, and the reason is that if there is a very high grass, then I need to go. But if there is a black ground, like it was in FMBB, and I'm 10 meters off, I see the power, I see the balance, I see the self-confidence, I see how the dog looks with the handler, I see the bond, I see like all these primary things.
Yeah.
And if the article is little bit against the leg, this is so small thing. Because if the article is under the dog, I see it as well from the 10-meter distance. If the handler
Right.
puts the hand under the dog, I don't need to be beside because of this. So that's the reason why I don't go there. Because in my opinion, if I go there, I make a little bit pressure for the dog, and then I should go with every dog over there because otherwise it's not equal.
Right.
Why I go to some dogs and not to other dogs? So I don't do this because I see all these primary elements from the distance. I don't need to run to the dog.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, just
that's
like the same like in the bark and hold. You don't need to
yeah,
stick your head between the dog and the
yeah,
helper, right? You
yeah.
allow
You
that
feel the
space.
dog from the distance. I mean, you feel how the dog is feeling. This is a little bit the feeling thing. This is not the technical thing, but about the feeling. And all these feeling things have been coming more important nowadays in IGP because we want to see in bite work also that the dog is making the kind of pressure and he's really fighting with the helper and so on. But this is not technical thing. This is about feeling thing. And feeling things you can see also from the distance. You don't need to be in the middle of dog and helper. And in the tracking, I would say so that if I charge the tracking, I have been always saying that I am kind of feeling what the dog is feeling. I mean, I feel, is the dog feeling self-confident, not self-confident, feeling powerful, not powerful? And for me, it's no idea to be closer because I can feel it in the same distance. Because now it's in the rules. I can't go closer than 10 meters, so I must stay 10 meters. And I see it so clearly from there. And nowadays it's so good because it's written down primary, secondary.
Yeah.
Earlier it was so that the dog was showing the article, making perfect. Everything was perfect. And then the handler came and the dog just moved the head. And some charges took 1 point off. Took moved again the head, took 2 point off. And now you think that the dog was perfect. And another dog who is feeling bad and sad, who is slow, who is not powerful, but don't turn the head. It can't be so that I give more points for this dog because then I praise technically built up weak dog, not the strong dog what we would like to see. And strong dog don't mean just that the dog is by the nature strong, but it also means that the dog is strong in the exercises, that it's built so that the dog feels strong.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to praise. And this is the thing in the rules now, black and white, that we have primary things and secondary things. And primary things bring up these more important things.
Right. Right. Ivo, let's stay a little bit on the articles because it's definitely a topic that a lot of people, me included, like there is always certain confusion. I have chosen to have a certain picture with my dog. Other trainers have a different picture, and including the whole training about the articles. And where I'm going with this is like, how sometimes the dog's gonna come to the article. It will be nice article, but they will be so fixated. And this is just overtrained to stay focused. Even sometimes they will kind of peck like a bird on the article because they're expecting food. How do you see this kind of intensity? And then of course you have the other ones that they're almost possessive, like the handler cannot take the article without getting tagged. And then you have a dog that just lays down and opens their mouth and it's like, okay, this is like a checkpoint. There is nothing else to do. How do you see the different article indication, and what is, in your eyes, the optimal? And you also, sometimes during the competition, I don't know if it was having a drink or when, but you mentioned something that it really kind of, you saw the difference in the FH dogs indicating and the IGP, and a lot of the IGP dogs doing it for like a different reason almost.
Yes. First of all, I don't want that people understand me wrong. I mean, in FMBB, there were a lot of dogs built up nicely, and there were dogs who got excellent, doing very, very nice work. So if I speak about mistakes, these mistakes are always about the second part, who had more mistakes. So it doesn't mean that all dogs are built up somehow wrong. This is what I don't mean. I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
we
correct.
had in FMBB a nice percentage of very nicely built up dogs. But if I take the average, how the average looked like, I would say that in IGP FH World Championships, I saw better bond between the handler and the dog in the articles. In FMBB, there was more seeable with some dogs that they were a little bit like machines. They showed the article in certain way, but they were not happy about showing this article to the handler. And handler also didn't feel the kind of bond with the dog that he is happy that the dog showed the article. Because, for example, in FCI, FH, a lot of dogs showing the article. Some of them showing more strong, some of them showing not so strong or self-confident. But mostly they were showing so that they showed the article, and when they showed the article, the tail was a little bit moving, he was happy, he found the article, he was a little bit looking where the handler is coming, when the handler was coming closer, he was more happy about that the handler is coming. Handler was very happy that the dog showed, so when he praised the dog, you saw that it's coming from the heart, that he's
Yeah.
really loves his dog
You
and so
kind of,
on.
you see some kind of completion at the article, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I think that in IGPFH, this is coming because these people are training tracking so much more. So there builds up more connection between the dog and the handler. I think that this is something like this, that they are going to the field, they are making long tracks. It's a little bit like battle. You have your horse and you are going with your horse to the battle and you are fighting together. It's a little bit more like this. But in IGP, it's more about that I train you these tricks in tracking. You need to make these tricks, then
Right,
I'm happy. It's
right,
not about that we are doing the tracking together.
right.
So it could be like this. It's difficult to say, but the thing what you asked about some dogs are pointing the article with nose, or they are very much how to say it. They are in the kind of pressure that they are not moving. They are just showing. They are like statues
Right.
showing the article. I would say that this is very much risky thing, because if you take the nature of the dog, by the nature, not a single dog would not like to be in the article this way. I mean, why it should be?
Right.
That means that if you train the dog this way, anyhow, you give some kind of pressure to the dog or some feedback or control that he looks like this.
Yeah.
And then you have very sharp border falling to the side that the dog looks under pressure. You understand? You need to be very much good in this, so that the dog looks precisely perfect, but don't look stressed. Because when I look back in FMBB, it's so funny. You can see the dog is focusing on the article. He's very much like a statue. Don't move. He just focus. And now the handler coming closer, and all the time the ears a little bit down, And when the handler is coming, you can see how the ears are moving and some of them even moving more down. That means that somehow this dog don't like that the handler came. We can say that the dog was focusing better and so on, and that's why the ears are like this. But if you look the body language of the dog, you see that the dog is not feeling so good. So I can't say that the handler has been kicking the dog or making bad
Sure.
things, but the dog is trained so that the dog don't feel comfortable. And that's why he looks a little bit sad and under pressure. And if I look such dog, always the dog, if he has little bit pressure or little bit sad, this dog never looks powerful. And this dog never looks balanced. And this dog never looks self-confident. So I cannot say that the dog is having much pressure in the article, but I can say that he should feel better in the articles.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a little bit risky in the way. If you train it very perfect, there is no problems. But there is a huge risk that the dog will look sad in the articles.
I mean, sad is the one side, and then the other side is this discipline of no, you cannot look anywhere else. You have to, almost like a bird dog, like a pointer, and you have to.
Yeah, but
that does not bring you any extra points.
Exactly, no way.
People think that brings extra points for some reason.
No. I mean, nowadays, by the rules what we have, it's more or less that you will lose points with this.
Right.
Because the dog looks stressed and you lose points because of this. Because now it's written in the rules that the dog can look back to the handler, wave with the tail and move the head and so on. This is no mistake. So basically, if the dog looks like this, that he's looking at the handler and handler is coming and dog is happy that the handler is coming, it's always very, very nice. I mean, if the dog moves the head back and in the same time he moves also the body, then it's mistake. But if the body stays and just the head is moving, it's no mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, the tracking should be understood so that the idea of the tracking is the finding of the articles. The dog is going to track to find the articles. This is like the purpose of the tracking.
Yes.
So basically, if the dog finds the article for the handler, both should be happy. Dog is happy that he found, and handler is happy that dog found the article.
Mission accomplished.
If the dog finds the article and he needs to make obedience during this thing, then we praise not the finding the article, but we are praising the obedience what the dog is doing. And then we come to this position that in certain moment the dog starts to love the tracking more and he won't show the last article. Because he don't like the articles, he likes tracking.
There is so much interesting stuff we're talking about. I know everybody that it's into tracking would really like this podcast. Let me ask you, still on the articles. I've been personally curious because I haven't seen it in a long time. Is the retrieving articles, have you seen this lately? Is it still acceptable? Like I remember back in the 90s, there were some top dogs that were doing it, and they were doing very good job with it. It's just a little bit trickier. How do you judge it? But in some ways, it gives a dog some kind of break and refocus and like re-engage and then restart. But tell me about this kind of.
Now in FCI IGP FH World Championships, there was one dog who was retrieving the articles.
So it's still okay?
Yeah, it's okay. But I would say so that I never ever would train this. Because showing the article in the normal way, there is so much less details inside than bringing the article. There is so much more details. And if the dog makes mistakes in these details, you lose very easy points. I mean, showing the article You can lay down, you can sit, you can stand. I mean, there is a lot of different
Yeah.
ways. And when you make the start, you're always beside the dog. So the dog, you can always control with the leash. You can always, I mean, it gives you a little bit more possibilities to have some conversation with the dog. If the dog brings the article, it's very much clean. I mean, you don't have possibility to much conversation with the dog.
Hmm.
So it's little bit complicated to train it, and if the dog retrieves the article, you won't get any bonus for this. I
Of
mean,
course.
you just spend more time and you have more possibilities to fail. Concerning showing the articles, I was charging in this FCI IGP FH, the winner of World Championships, who got 100 points from me and 100 points from other judges, such as Svek. I would say so that this track of this lady and this Sherman Shepherd was the best track I will see until I die. Because I said it also to this winner that this track was so perfect. That track cannot be better. That means that someday I can see similar kind of track,
Hmm.
but I never can see anything better because nothing can be better. And you know, this dog was showing all the articles standing. Mostly dogs are showing lay down, and sometimes they are a little bit feeling not so good and they are standing. But this dog was showing all the articles standing. And the interesting thing was that he was showing the standing so that the article was in every article exactly in the same position. It was exactly between the legs and in the same line. I mean, perfectly in the same way. And this is very interesting because mostly if you train the dog to lay down in the articles, it's a little bit easier because
Has more
there is not
stability.
yeah, there is not much space. I mean, if the article is between legs, it can't be left and right, and it can't be on the chest. So for the dog, there is a very limited box where the article can be. But if the dog stands, the box is much more open. So it's not so easy to train to
Yeah.
the dog how you explain to the dog that the article should be precisely at this spot. So I would say it's more difficult, but it was so perfectly built up that it was exactly in the same spot in every article. So it was like crazy to see. I mean, you are looking and it's exactly like by millimeter in the same spot. So I would say that if the dog is bringing, it is difficult to build up, but it could be same way, all these centimeters and millimeters nicely built up,
Hmm.
but it's more difficult. It's the same. Laying down, it's easier. Standing, it's more difficult.
I guess the like if I not that I would ever, who knows, maybe I will, but the retrieving articles, I guess one kind of benefit that I could see is that the dog can grab it and come to you, and it's almost like allowing the dog to kind of shake it off, and it's like, okay, now we go for round two. There is that more of a freedom in between during the article versus any other indication, you know? But I don't
I
know
don't like it.
how good that could be. What
I don't
about
like this.
the dogs that sit? Do you see any advantage of that or
No,
no?
no. But concerning this retrieving, I would say so that if the dog is tracking and showing the article, laying down on the article, he still will be in the same mood or state of mind.
Hmm.
If he's retrieving and shaking, like you told, he will lose this state of mind because he will be shaking off, like I said. And now the problem is that in the start, you're making the start with short leash, and you can little bit adjust the mood. But if the dog is retrieving, you can't make the start with the short leash
Right.
because it's loose
Yes.
leash. And that means that the dog need to find out by himself
Yes.
the correct state of mind. And that's complicated because bringing the article, the dog will lose the correct state of mind. And now he needs to find it by himself,
Right.
like at the moment. So that what makes it more complicated. If a dog lays down, he stays in the starting spot. You can have the short leash, and he's more or less in the same state of mind what he was before showing the article. So that's why it's easier. Another thing, as a mistake, what I see in the competitions, I didn't see so much it in these World Championships in FMBB, but I see it very oftenly, is that the dog, when he's starting from the article, should take the first steps also with the same power like all the other track. There are some dogs who speeding over the first 10 steps or 5 steps, not taking them.
Right.
And then there are some dogs who are pointing with the nose these steps, but they are not taking them deeply in the way that you can see that they are taking them. So I would say so that I admire always competitors who have managed to train this part for the dogs because it's not so easy to train. And if I compare, these dogs should get more points than the dogs who don't make it. Because if you don't take all steps, you should lose some points. And it is the same with the corner. People are speaking so much about speeding after the corner. Dog who's speeding after the corner always gets some minus.
Mhm.
This is very logical. But in like in FMBB, I saw several or even a lot of dogs who were doing very precise corner, but they were not showing the power in the corner. You understand? The same thing like in the start. That means that the dog makes the turn automatically.
Yeah.
These are not big minuses, but if you want 100 points and your dog makes both starts from the article so that you don't take first 3 steps, you will lose 1 point or 1.5. And if in the turns automatic and he won't take whole steps, and everything rest is very nice, you probably will get 97 or 98, but never 100. And this is the thing. I mean, you don't lose much, but there are people who train these things, and I admire that people have done it so perfectly as it should look like by the rules that there should be difference in the points between these two kind of dogs.
Yeah. Aivo,
It's,
how difficult it is to recognize dog that is trained? I mean, we know, unfortunately, or whatever, that there is systems for tracking that basically start with, okay, here is the start and there is pressure, and it's basically learning to avoid pressure by tracking all along. I don't need to explain it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. How difficult for you it is to see that, and when the dog is tracking, and besides, let's say there is a problem on the track and the dog cannot solve it, and then it really crumbles and falls apart. But let's say the dog really makes the track, but you see it that it's the reason behind it. It has changed. How do you like, what do you do with that, and how do you see that? How do you recognize it, if you can even?
I would say so that the word pressure, this is a little bit tricky
I mean,
because
I'm saying pressure, not to say other words.
yeah, but the thing what I want to explain is that if you use force in the tracking so that you put the dog to track in the way that he must to track, and the dog is tracking because he's afraid, and you make pressure.
Yeah, it's all, yeah.
Such dogs, if they are clearly working this way, you can see it from the body language of the dogs. But now we go to the next step. If you have been doing it a little better, the dog looks a little bit under pressure, but some dogs are getting the pressure from the tracking. Some dogs who are
Yeah,
tracking and don't feel so confident,
yeah, good
they
point.
start to look also under pressure, even they are never trained with the pressure.
Absolutely.
So I would say so that if I charge and I see this dog under certain pressure, and the pressure is not so big that I could say that the dog is trained wrong, I always give minus because I don't care. Does the dog take the pressure by himself, or is the dog is trained by the pressure? Because on both ways, the dog is not looking like the dog should look like, because dog should look like self-confident and powerful. If the dog is tracking and building up the pressure by himself, looking not so comfortable and looking not so powerful, then this is a mistake. So basically, I as a judge cannot say to the handler that you have trained the dog wrongly because I see the pressure, because sometimes the pressure is coming from the dog side. And that means that usually if I see such a dog, I say in the comments that the dog was working under the pressure and I cannot say it's coming from this side or other side, but the dog shouldn't look like this. So it makes you this minus or that minus or whatever, and you need to get the dog tracking more self-confident and more free. And if the people who have been using the pressure, they understand very well that I pointed out at this thing, so they need to reorientate in the training. Or if the people have been training the dog nicely and the dog is looking stressed, they have an idea what they should do at home. They can think about this, why the dog is looking stressed. But this is I mean, in certain level, you can't you as a judge cannot see the difference.
Right.
But if the dog is very much under stress or put under stress, I have seen these dogs also in World Championships, not in FMBB, but in other World Championships. And I have seen some of these dogs, and they are exactly like you told. They are making a mistake, then they start to make a lot of different things. You feel that they are shake, they cannot do anything. Then you see that these dogs, because if the stress is so big, then the dog starts to make mistakes because his head cannot take so much the pressure. So he goes, the pressure will be too high, he makes small mistake, and then you see how the dog looks scared. So in this situation, this is a big mistake. I mean, the dog is trained not in a way would like to see, and it brings at least 1 degree down, maybe even more.
I see. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Let's talk about the tail. In obedience, in obedience, it's becoming almost like I mean, it's sad, but I see it happening, like really see it happening. People start to breed and people start to buy puppies that have that genetic kind of like a piggy tail, just so they can show that when the dog does obedience, the tail is up and the dog is emotionally in a good place in their head. In tracking, we have dogs that can do tail up or dogs that cannot physically do tail down because it's genetically like that. And then you have a tail that is very comfortably hanging low. And of course, a tail that is starting to get tucked towards the body that certainly shows something. I when I have these conversations with different people, I always bring that analogy of chess players. You will have a different people that are very good at the game, and because it's a mental game, their bodies do things in order to maintain that mental state. So you know, you have a chess player that makes a move and then paces around and paces around, and he cannot stop, because if you stop them, their brain's not going to function right. And then you have a different player that makes a move and it stays like a still, like a crane ready to get a bird, and nothing moves. Where do you see the body language and specifically the way the dogs carry their tail during tracking? And of course, the tail by itself shouldn't be the only indicator of what we see, but tell me a little bit about this, because I know this is another big conversation.
I mean, the tails and ears. This is the funniest part in the tracking. I mean, as long as I have been in FCI charge trainings, I have been like 20 years or 15 years over there. They're always saying that you shouldn't look tail and ears in the tracking. They always say, and I always laugh about this because if we have charges who don't see the whole body language and they just see ears and tails, and you say that you can't look the ear and tails, what they will look then? I mean, if you don't have the skill to read the body and you take the tail and ears off, then what there will be? I mean, for me, it's so funny because in my logic, as much as I read dogs, tails and ears, okay, if the tail is totally under the body and so on, it sometimes tells a little bit more. But mostly tails and ears tell very little. I mean, you need
Right.
to see the whole body language.
And
And this is the
probably,
thing.
isn't it most like what is, in my opinion, the most telling about the mental state is how the dog moves on the track.
Ah, I would say concerning the tail, by the way, I have at home two Malinovas. They both have been competing. One is mine and another is my wife. My wife is also IGP charge and have been competing and so on.
Oh,
And my wife dog has been having all the time tail down. I mean, tracking all the time tail down. And we have never used any pressure. We have never, even we have not made so much corrections because this talk was so much about food and tracking and so on. But by the nature, the tail is totally down. And this is like this. I mean, the tail is not. I mean, if I look the dog in the tracking, it's very much difficult to explain. I mean, if you ask about how the dog moves or how the dog, these are all technical things. And in my opinion, the problem of our sport is that if you want to be good judge, you need to read the dog, the body language. You can't study to be judged by reading the technical parts. So that the tails are so, the head is so, the legs are moving so and so and so, because it's not possible. I mean, if I charge the dog, I feel the dog in the way. If I see the dog, for example, tracking, I feel how the dog is feeling. I mean, it's not about the steps, it's not about the head, it's not about I see the dog and I see how the dog is feeling. And I even don't look the tail or the ears because very often it's so that I see so good concentration and the dog makes so powerful tracking and it looks so nice. And then I look, wow, your tail is totally down and your ears are totally low. So I look at like secondary thing.
right,
I look, wow, you have like this because it doesn't matter for me. I
right.
look the dog tracking and I put down powerful, nice, this and this. And then I laugh a little bit about, okay, these are looking like so. So I would say that you need to see and feel how the dog looks like totally. I
Yeah.
mean, this is. I mean, if you meet someone in the street, and the person is smiling to you, doesn't mean that the person is happy.
Right. Very true.
I mean, in
Good one.
America, I have seen also a lot of people who are always smiling, but you never
Yes.
know they are happy or not
Yes.
happy.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the thing. I mean, we can also make a lot of different faces, but you need to feel what this person is feeling. I have been just telling it because I work in different business everyday life, and I have been saying to people that
Yeah, you do some cooking or something, aren't you?
I make professional kitchens like hotels and restaurants. I
Aha.
make AutoCAD planning and then equip it with kitchen equipment and make training and so on. But I have been also working as a cook, so
I
I know
saw
very
you
well.
making some good steaks in one video.
Yeah, I make good steaks. I have at home this Kamada Joe,
Aha.
and I make chicken and all these things very nice. But the thing what I'm telling also at work is that for me, it's very much uncomfortable to sit with people behind the desk because I read the body language so well. I mean, because of dog training, I see when the person is lying. I see when the person is feeling sad but showing out that everything is okay. And sometimes it's not so good if you read so much the people. I mean, sometimes it's better if you get this picture as they would like to show to you.
Right.
Not
Right.
that you will get, I don't want to be the psychologist. I just want to be whatever business
Yes.
partner.
Yes.
But because of reading the talks, I also read the people all the time, and I can't handle this in the way I'm just automatically reading this. And this is about the talks. I would say so that we have so good judges who read the talks so well, and
I
I
agree.
always look them charging and explaining, and I always looking so that if this person is giving 95 in the bite work, how many people in the stadium are who understood why it was
Hmm.
95, not
Hmm.
96? Because I know that this person is reading so well the body language, but as the judge, he cannot explain it to the people who don't read it so well. So this is the problem in our sport, and this is the situation when the audience starts to say that this judge is giving more points to whatever Germans or Americans or whatever because they don't understand why the points are looking like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And I would say so that if you are charging and you are in the stadium in the field, you feel the dog so much better than from the side.
Oh,
If you are on
100%.
the audience, you never feel the dog in the same way. And so, for example, now in FMBB, I had a funny situation a little bit because we didn't have one charge. He got ill. So it was so that I was charging the tracking and then I was charging all bite work in finals and most of the obedience in the finals.
Yeah.
So I was not charging just 6 dogs obedience. Otherwise, I would charge both B and C in stadium. And as I was not charging these 6 dogs obedience, I was sitting in the audience and it felt so different, it felt so different because I was just doing 6 talks in the stadium and it felt so much different, and now going to the side it felt so much different
Right.
again because you are a little bit not with the dog, because if you are charging you're always moving with the dog, you see the correct point of view so that you feel the dog better. If you're far away, the angle is not correct, you don't feel the dog same way. And this is the thing what is very much difficult to explain to the people because they don't have this feeling. So this is the difficulty. And it's the same in the tracking, because in tracking the feeling part is even so much more important from the point of training and from the point of charging, that I, as a judge, I think that when I judge, I need to explain this part also to the handler, like I told in the beginning. But I'm never so sure how much they really understand it, because if they have been training their dogs more obedience and not so much dog reading, then all the info what I give about dog reading maybe don't click in their head because
Right.
they don't have the touch in this way.
Like I always, there is times when all the judges camps, when they're organized, sometimes they get recorded or live streamed to where almost anybody can watch. And sometimes we rely on whomever is the delegate to come to the country and give us the explanation. And I think today, with the technology that we have, I think it would be very cool for any competitor that wants to actually just be a fly on the wall and just not participate, but listen to the presentations and the tendencies during those meetings, like firsthand, instead of a delegate coming back home, then telling it to the breed club, then the breed club to the regional director, and eventually some things get missed. And I think that will speed up and maintain a good education in the people that actually train dogs. What do you think?
It's very complicated. I
Yeah.
mean, it's very much complicated because it has so much different tasks. I mean, if we speak about charge training, like FCI makes the charge training, in my opinion, if the charge training is online, it's always very much wise if also more people see it, if all the competitors see it, and so on, because then we have very much more common point of view, or we understand maybe more the same things in the same way. But on the same time, I would say that if I look the charge trainings, uh, if it's made theoretically in the room and there is 100 charges, and this theory is given there, I wouldn't be very much surprised that all the 100 charges are not getting the same point of view,
Hmm.
because people have different understanding,
Yes.
people have different experience, people have different everyday practice and so on. So they, because of this level, they understand the message a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And if we now make it online, it is even more difficult, because sitting in the room, you get it directly. In the online, you will lose even more. That means that in this way, people sitting online,
Mm.
they think that they get 100%, but they maybe get it a little bit in the mirror in the way that they don't understand everything correctly. So at the moment, it's so that the FCI Utility Commission has been planning that they start to make every year the practical charge training. And that means it was now done for the different breed clubs in the March, so that the number of charges was not too big, but about 15 or 20 people. And they were in the stadium. They were charging practically one by one the dogs and then discussing about what they were seeing.
Hmm.
And I would say so that if we want to rise the level of charges, this is very good way. I mean, this is how it should be done, because then we see the same dog and we can have the conversation, and maybe people will see it then differently. It is so much better than theoretical training, like so much better.
Yeah.
But such charge training, if we make it in online, then we even lose more than making the theoretical training, because through online you don't see the dog in the same way as people on the stadium. So it's a little bit like, I totally agree with you that concerning FCI Utility Commission charge trainings, if we could get more unique package out it would develop technology
Yeah,
much more
something more.
wider.
Not yeah, exactly, kind of like that. Not the whole, the not the whole 4 days, but a condensed version of a message that
Yeah,
that is already discussed and decided, right?
yeah.
Something like this.
But it's like I said now, it's not so black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It's so that in the beginning I was also very much enthusiastic that it should be done this and this and this and that. Now I have been 20 years in this utilities or commission, getting deeper and deeper in, and then you start to understand that everything is not so black and white. That there is
Sure.
little bit complicated parts. If you're outside, you don't understand why they are doing this like this. But if you're inside, then you start to think that there is not so good possibility how to make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
it's now moving very much to the right direction, I would
I
say.
agree. I
And the thing what in my opinion is very good is that now in charge trainings, theoretical parts, Harry has been doing the bite work
Mhm.
every time. And I like this because he makes the same structure and the same message all the time. So then it works well. If there are always different person, they have little bit different point of view, and it's so much more
Yeah.
difficult to understand what is the direction. If the same person is making this, it's so much easier to understand. So this is so good. And now it's so that the practical training for the charges will be done every year. This is so good thing.
Nice.
So I think that this is moving to really nice direction. In the last meeting, there was also discussion that we won't make two charges in FCI like it's an FMBB.
Uh-huh. You
But
will or you will not.
will not, because it
Interesting.
won't give anything. But we probably will try from the next year little bit the same system like WSWOW has, that there will be assistant charge in the, so there is two charges, and second one is assistant charge, and the assistant charge is the one who will be charging next year.
Mm-hmm.
So in this way we
So,
could
but
manage.
when the assistant judge is assisting, they have no influence in the points, or do they?
It need to be clarified a little bit more specific how it works. But the idea was that if you charge in World Championships, there is 5 days, you will be very much tired. And if you as a judge will miss something or you
Mm-hmm.
will make
Yes.
mistakes,
Yes.
the assistant judge can say it, you
Okay.
didn't see this or you didn't see that.
Okay.
Then in these basics, the charging should be also more bulletproof in the
Yeah.
way that less mistakes will be there.
Yeah.
And on
That's
the
the.
other
Yeah.
hand,
No, this is very true. 'Cause this is kind of where I like the idea of two judges because of that, because human mind sometimes wanders off, even if it's not tired. It's just our brain
yeah,
can
yeah,
wander off, and there is always the discussion between, well, the two judges should stay in different corners and never talk, and I don't think that's a good idea. I think ultimately, just as you said, like, hey, did you see that that dog didn't even make the sit?
yeah,
Like, so communication between the judges, and I mean, I guess if it's not two judges and there is an assistant, as long as the assistant can say, hey, there was
yeah,
something here that I need to bring your attention to, that just happened.
yeah. And the idea was that they can discuss, and these assistants will be charging next year World Championships.
And
So
maintain the direction.
yeah, then the direction and line will be more the same, and then there will be again assistant, and I think that this could work well. But this was just decided in the last meeting, and it's a little bit the thing what will be solved out, how it will look like, and so on, because it just came out in the last meeting. But I think that as idea, this is very good idea. I mean, it could change the charging to more consistent way.
Yes, we
Exactly. By
cannot
taking,
have 1 year we're focusing on this in the judging and the next year is very different. We need to have
yeah,
a consistent
yeah,
progression, that's for sure.
yeah. And
I want
also,
to, yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
it also could take out some mistakes, for example, like we
Yeah,
discussed. So
yeah,
this way, I just see all positive things in this, and if it will come like this out, I think it's very nice step forward.
I like it. I want to bring you back to one tracking question that
Yeah.
I almost was going to forget, and this is the tracking with open mouth. Like how much, like how do you judge it? Let's say you have a dog that, I mean, it clearly it's tracking and it's not walking as you know how you describe that some dogs just kind of they're going, but they're not tracking. It's tracking, but the mouth is kind of slightly open, almost like they're taking scent, which dogs also can do through the mouth. And how is it a faulty, and how big of a faulty it is if the dog tracks with open mouth?
It's not good
I
question for
have
me,
good one, huh?
You know why it's not good? Because I start again speaking about body language. This is like ears and tails, you know.
I
One
mean,
thing what
some judges are very, very explicit. It's like, no, that's not intensive enough.
but I again come to back. This is the same like tails and ears. I make one example. Maybe it will explain it better. This lady who got 100 points from me and Sasha Svek in the FCI FH, this dog was starting the tracking with such a power that it was like boom, 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 every track like with full power. And in Slovakia, it was made so that all the tracks were quite long. It was made with about 60, 70 centimeter steps, so quite long steps, and 1,800 steps, so they were quite long.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, this is looking so nice. But let's see how it's looking on the last leg. Or if it's turning the last turn against the wind, and then the last leg will be against the wind because dog is tired, and how it's possible that the dog can make the same power and intensity because he has lost so much power already in the first part. But the dog was doing exactly the power in the last turns against the wind and so on. Everything looked the same. So I would say so that concerning the open mouth, if the dog is powerful, is he making very nice concentration tracking and so on, the mouth is the same thing like tail and ears because the mouth is not important. Important is what the body language is showing. If the dog is making all components what we want to see in the tracking, then it need to be getting excellent. No difference
Okay.
how the mouth is looking like. But mostly the dogs are opening the mouth when they will be tired. And mostly then the concentration gets not so good,
Yeah.
and mostly the tracking is not so powerful. So the whole picture is not anymore excellent, but let's say good or something.
Yeah.
And very often in this situation, they start to skip some steps, and because of this, they start to make some controlling. So I cannot say that these minuses are coming because of the open mouth, but there is a lot of things also what is missing.
Yeah.
And another thing what I would also like to bring out, especially in FH World Championships, I have been telling this. In this IGP FMBB, it was not so much seeable. But if we take the rules, by the rules, the dog can make a small control. If the dog is not leaving the track, then it is not mistake. If the dog is tracking, he's on the track, turns the head, makes control and go on, then it's not calculated as mistake. But again, it's not so black and white. I mean, if the dog makes the control and I see clearly that there are the steps and I see that the dog don't feel so safe and that's why he makes this control, then it is mistake because he made the control because he was not feeling so good or he was stressed about the leg and so he made the control. Another dog who is showing so good power, he just need to make the check because he sees that there is rabbit or someone been going. He just need to look, okay,
Yeah.
this is okay, I'm the king, this is my castle, I need to take care of my castle. But the dog is looking differently then. And this is the thing. The mistake is not the taking the control, but the mistake is why the dog is making the control.
Right.
So if the tracking field is very much like a class, and there is a lot of crossing animal tracks or whatever, but there is also very clear track of the person or track layer. If the dog is all the time checking the animal tracks crossing, I would say that this dog is not so self-confident in the tracking. Otherwise, he would go by the main track, not after every 3 steps, check the crossing, check the crossing, check the crossing, because it shows that he is not so
A
self-confident
little
about his
unsureness,
work,
yes.
so he need to check all the crossings.
Yeah. Now, you are, I mean, you give a lot of seminars on tracking. You have a really cool website that we're gonna put as a link for people to, because there is like a very cool library. I mean, you're clearly extremely passionate about this. You're coming to the States like in a week, giving 2 workshops here, and I don't know where else you're going, but I highly recommend for anybody that's interested in tracking to come and experience and maybe take something from you. My kind of last question: when you do tracking seminars and workshops, what are the top 2 things that it seems like you almost have to start talking about those things even before you see the dogs, because you kind of know that they stand out always?
I answer a little bit longer now.
Sure.
First of all, I thank you for all these warm words, what you said about me and my concept and so on, and web page. Second thing is that I don't make too many seminars. If you say that I make a lot of seminars, it's not exactly correct. And the reason is that I have the same time frame for charging and for seminars. So, like this year, I have more charging. I cannot make so much seminars because I'm out of time. And as dog training and seminars and charging, this is not the business for me. This is like a hobby. That means that I like to keep it this way, that it's not eating my family time, my personal time, and so on. So if I have more charging, I make less seminars. If I have less charging, I can make more seminars. This is a little bit divided like this. So if people are asking, can you come? And I say that I am really full booked. That means that I don't have continuously seminars, but I have, like this year, I have this FMBB charging, I have FCI, and in August I will charge the Rottweiler World Championships, both IGP and FH.
Wow.
That means that I'm again 1 week off, so it takes a lot of time. Concerning what I do in seminars, mostly as much as I have been in other people's seminars, tracking seminar is a little bit complicated for the audience because very often the person who is training going with the dog and handler to the field, you on the side, you don't see much. you don't, I mean, the messaging is not so good. So I always say to people who participate in my seminar that there is not big difference. You come with a dog or you come without dog, because I always aim so that I don't want to give the food to you, but I want to give the tool for you that you can make the
Teach you
food.
how to cook, yeah.
Yeah, then you don't be hungry in the future. So basically, if someone comes with his dog and he has certain problem, I just don't want to fix this problem, but I want to that he understands the deeper concept of the tracking, because then he can solve also other problems in the future. Because very often the seminars are so that in obedience it's different, because in obedience the dogs have different kind of problems. You see so many things, so you can think afterwards what is good for you and what is not. But in tracking, the problems are coming a little bit like this, that you are not ready for this. And then if you remember from the seminar and there was nothing shown for this moment, you are a little bit alone. I mean, you just need to think by yourself. So the thing what I want to explain to the people, I want that the people understand the picture of the tracking wider, because then they can find out the solution by themselves better. So I always say to the people that if you can't participate with a dog, come without the dog, and you always can walk with me. And I always explain that you can see how the dog looks like now, how the dog is doing this right now. This is because of this is because of that. So people are understanding the bigger picture. This is
Yeah.
what I want to give. I don't want to give so much at the moment this tool, because if the person with the dog using this tool next week, then after next week he will be in totally different situation, and then he don't have any tools. He need to have the bigger picture. So this is what I'm doing.
Interesting.
I want that the person understands the concept. You know, I have been participating there is a good psychologist who lived in America, Dale Carnegie, who have been writing all books and things and so on. I have been his courses. Foundation of Dale Carnegie has been doing some courses of psychology, and I have been going there and so on. And there was very good example that a man went to aquarium shop where were fishes and aquariums. He was looking in the shop, and there was different size aquariums where were different size of fishes, but all the fishes were the same breed. And then this man said to the selling guy, you have put so much effort to organize in all aquarium different age of fishes. This is probably not easy. And the selling guy is saying, no, these fishes are all the same age. But the fish, if this fish has bigger aquarium, he always rise bigger than the one who is in the smaller aquarium. This is about the fishes. So if I make the seminar, I always say to the people that I want to build your aquarium bigger, that you understand the tracking not like a model, but the big picture in the way that you can develop your dog better by yourself. This is the thing. This is like you ask about two things. I would say that I just give this one thing. I want that the person has wider picture about tracking, because then he manage better by himself. Because one example more, I train a lot at the stress. I train in the training so that I want to put the dog in the tracking training by purpose in the stress. And the idea of putting the dog in the stress is that I want to train the dog how to come out from the stress. And I want to train the dog that if the dog gets out of the stress, then he feels better. And so the dog will be looking actively out of the stress. So if during the tracking the dog has some problems, he would learn how to move fast out of these problems. This is what I'm teaching.
Yeah.
And very
Yeah.
often, if I make seminar, people asking from me, show how you train the stress parts.
Right.
But the stress part is never about just making this model over there, but this is about what you should do in certain moments and how you should use the leash in the certain moments. And then, if you make all these things, then this thing has an idea. Just putting the stress, it doesn't have much idea. So that's the thing. If you come to the seminar and you don't have the dog and you walk with me, I'm explaining the same thing to the dog handler and also to the audience, and they will get better picture about the stress, why I do these stress things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you kind of covered a little bit about the stress. Even this probably will not be as clear as there is just no way to be during a conversation. But I mean, I'm fortunate that you have been helping me and talking about this like one-on-one, so I get it. And so people that are listening to what you're talking right now and may not understand,
Exactly.
don't freak out, because it's not that easy to understand. However, Aivo has a really good breakdown on his website. As I said, we're gonna have it on the links and stuff. And if he ever does a seminar and you're able to go and see it, highly recommend it.
One more thing what I would like to add.
Yes, absolutely.
The thing what you just told now about stress, that people don't understand it. Funny thing, I have in my Facebook page one short video what I did with one Malinova in my training. I uploaded it about a month ago, and now, as after FMBB, I had a lot of new friend requests coming. I repeated, so I uploaded it again. And this video with this drawing is all about this stress thing,
Yes.
and it has so much inside. And I kind of expected that there will be discussion because I thought that people don't understand exactly what I meant, and I could explain and they could learn. But there was no discussion, so basically I understood that people don't understand the idea. Otherwise, they would ask and they would
Right.
discuss, and that describes so well how much it's difficult for the people to understand if you are not inside,
Yes.
because otherwise you would ask. I would explain all the seconds in this video. Now this is doing this, now this is doing this, that's why that. But people are looking this and they just need see the stress and not stress, and that's it. But there is so many components, but as they don't see this,
Right.
they are not able to start even the conversation. And I was a little bit like, wow, how it's possible. I mean, people want to have discussing about articles and people want to make discussion about starts or whatever. What are so simple and easy things. But this is so
So
much more like
yes.
something what will give so much more. But there
Yes.
is no discussion. But there is no discussion because people don't understand the core problem. They just see the video and that's it. And that's why I would say that this is the thing what I always want to explain in the seminars, that the people could start to see the tracking wider.
Yes. Looking at the foundation and the problem solving from a different perspective is what it is, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ivo, thank you so much, man. This was perfect conversation. I am sure this conversation is not for everybody. This is tracking one-on-one. But the people that like tracking, I'm sure, will be very happy to listen to this few times. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for invitation and thank you for very nice conversation. I really hope that it gives some ideas to people who want to go to track.
Right, that's why we do
Yes.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we do it. All right.
Thank you.
Next time we're gonna talk about your photos too, because you're amazing with this. Like, I don't know how long you hunt the photos, but they're amazing. I mean, every time you post something, I'm like on the page watching. It's pretty cool. I
Thank
guess you
you.
have very nice nature around.
Yeah, but this nature photography,
Yeah.
it's for me also a little bit the thing that when I look the bears in the nature, how they're acting and so on, I always look for the details. And it's a little bit like so that as I charge and train dogs, it gives me uh, the skills to read the details. And then I read these details in pairs and I see interesting things. And then I come back to the dogs. I mean, it's a little bit like vice versa. The being in the nature, looking the wild animals, it's giving so much back what is helping me also with the dogs. So it's a little bit like so it's a little bit like connected in the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how it must be addictive when you're good at it and when you have the opportunities to go out and hunt things down. And
I was just I came back from FMBB in Monday evening.
yeah, and you had a
So I
picture
thought
with a bunch of bears already.
yeah, I thought that weekend would be a little bit resting, but there were certain photographers who wanted to have a workshop with me,
Uh-huh.
taking photos of bears. So we went Saturday evening to the forest and we spent whole night in the forest photoshooting
Wow.
bears.
How
So
far
I
is it?
slept.
How far from your home you have to go?
It's about 2 hours drive.
Oh, wow.
So I just was sleeping like 3 hours because whole night we were just looking for bears and so on. So I hope that I can sleep now next weekend.
You gotta do Florida sometime. We have crazy animals around here too.
Yeah, would be fun.
You know. All right, my friend. Take
Okay,
care.
thank you.
Very
See
good
you.
one.
Bye.